6 daily habits you need to have to heal from chronic pain and symptoms. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you all about 6 daily habits that you need to have to heal from chronic pain and symptoms. Now, how I came up with this topic is I had this moment, this beautiful, warm-hearted, fuzzy, light moment a few nights ago. So every night when I put my kids to bed, my son is 6, so he goes off and does his own thing. He wants to play in his room and play with his Lego and things. But my daughter, who is 3.5, and she is adorable. Truly, it melts my heart every time I think about it. But we have this nighttime routine where we spend a little time playing in a room. We might read books. A lot of times we're just having tickle fights and throwing her stuffed animals around. But I had this moment where I was lifting her up in the air and kind of like throwing her up and down. And she was laughing, and it was just this amazing moment that I experienced. And I'm sharing it with you all because, a moment like that I didn't think was possible when I had chronic pain many years ago. In fact, this was before I had kids, and me and my partner, Anne, we had serious talks about if we were going to be able to have kids just because I was so immobilized. I mean, I was barely moving. I was just sitting or lying down in my basement suite. I wasn't working for a period, and I couldn't lift anything. So having a child terrified me. It was one of my biggest fears that I had about moving forward in life. And so having a moment like that, it really made me stop and think about how amazing that is and how wonderful that really was. And I want that for each and every one of you that are listening to this channel. This is partly why I made this channel. And so I was thinking about, how did that take place? Like, what are the daily habits that I have personally that helps me maintain my recovery from chronic pain? So I came up with 6 of them. So 6 daily habits you need to have to heal from chronic pain and symptoms. So let's dive into the list. Number 1, being in your body. We need to use somatic practices to practice being in our body with all sensations that are taking place. Now, this is a debated topic by some people. I've had people ask on this channel if they can just distract themselves, stay busy, not focus on their pain or emotions, and get better. And my belief is truly that you can't. That's only going to take you so far. We need to be able to be in our body and shift out of our mind. If we stay up in our mind and we're always just in this hypervigilant, excessive thinking kind of mentality, it's really difficult to heal from chronic pain and symptoms that are more brain and nervous system related, that are neuroplastic, as I call. And so we need to practice being in our body. And I know that that's scary. For myself, I lived, a quarter of my life just being in my head, never daring to go into my body unless I was having a joyful or blissful moment. And so to heal, I really needed to allow myself to be in the body, to actually be able to attend to all sensations. So the sensations of my nervous system, of emotions, pleasant or unpleasant, of my pain at the time. And by doing that, I started to cultivate a sense of safety being there. So you can start small at first and be gentle with it. You're not going to be able to spend all day in your body, but this is a daily habit we need to practice. We need to practice actually being able to shift out of our mind and into our body. And by doing that, you're making steps forward on your healing journey. Number 2, breathing practices. So every single day for myself, in the morning and also at night right after my kids go to bed, I do breath work. I do a variety of different breathing practices that are very voluntary. where I'm trying to control my breathing in a certain way. Now, breath work has been shown to even be more effective than mindfulness, where you're just passively focusing on something, because what we're doing is we're bringing regulation into your system. And this isn't a one-time deal and you will never have to do it again. We need to be consistent with this practice, because when we're dysregulated, and a lot of people with neuroplastic pain and symptoms are very dysregulated, myself included when I had pain. And what happens is your breathing then becomes dysregulated. We do a lot of chest breathing. We're not actually breathing deep into our stomach. We're breathing very shallow and very sharply up and down. And this happens when you're in a high sympathetic or a low dorsal vagal state. So actually engaging in breath work and breathing practices, we're teaching our nervous system how to regulate. We're able to shift to that ventral vagal safe and connected zone. And so for myself, it varies day to day, but every single night for sure, I'm doing 15, 20 minutes of this. In the morning, I'm probably doing 5 or 10 minutes if I have time. And at first, when I started to incorporate this into the work, my healing work, I didn't notice a huge difference outside of right in that moment. But over time, over many months, I noticed a big difference. And when I was healing from chronic pain, this is something I started to do really consistently, because I knew there was a connection. I knew there was a connection to why my pain was being produced, and that this was actually going to help me regulate over time. Number 3, brain retraining for your thoughts. Now, I explained in number 1 that I want you to be more in your body, but we also need to work with our thoughts a bit. A lot of people with neuroplastic pain, we have obsessive thinking, we have fearful, hopeless, self-critical thoughts going on a lot of the time. And this keeps our brain and nervous system on high alert constantly, and it's actually going to escalate your chronic pain or symptoms. And so brain retraining is something that I still do to this day for my thoughts. Usually when I go for walks, I'll do this. I'll practice challenging and changing my thoughts. I think some of this kind of top-down approach can be really helpful to do on a daily basis. Now, I have a number of skills on this channel that I've done previous videos on. I have one on the 3R skill, which I'll link to the top. And I have another shifting from mind to body meditation that can help you focus on your thoughts, notice what's taking place, and then shift to your body. Both of these things are skills that I utilize on a daily basis, and we need to change the way that we're thinking in order to heal as well. And so really incorporate this into your daily practice. This isn't something you can do twice a month and expect a change. We need to be very consistent with this. Not too intense, but we need to be consistent with it. So try to incorporate this into your day. Number 4, using ventral vagal connectors consistently. Now, you probably have never heard the term ventral vagal connectors. That's because I made it up. What I mean by this is anything that brings you to a ventral vagal state naturally in your day, or practices that you've done, or maybe you've practiced on this channel that consistently bring you to a ventral vagal state. They connect you to that ventral vagal safe and connected place in your nervous system. Now, you don't have to overthink this. There's really simple things that can regulate the nervous system and be connectors to that ventral vagal state. These are things like singing, dancing, humming, being in nature, yoga, qigong. A little side note on qigong. I spent the last year training to be a qigong teacher, and I'm certified now. So there's going to be content coming your way on this channel around that. But you got to think about, what are your ventral vagal connectors? My partner, and she calls it, what's your safety soup of the day? This is a term that she uses a lot, which comes from an exercise from Deb Dana, but Anne calls it safety soup. And I think about, how can you sprinkle and pepper ventral vagal connectors all throughout your day? They're going to help you be more regulated consistently. This can be anything at all. For myself, like walking in nature with my puppy Darla, really does it for me. It calms me. I feel way more centered afterwards. And so this is something that I try to incorporate every single day. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of qigong while I'm, especially in the training process. I do a lot of yoga and qigong. I find that quite regulating. That may not work for you. I'm just giving you examples here, but you need to sprinkle throughout your day these ventral vagal connectors so that you're not just regulating the one time you do a somatic practice or the one time you do a meditation. Number 5, co-regulating with another nervous system. Now on my channel, I talk a lot about self-regulation. A lot of practices on that. When you're going to therapy, there's co-regulation happening with your therapist, of course, but a lot of what you're getting taught is ways you can self-regulate. But I think sometimes we miss the boat when we hyper-focus too much on that, in the sense of like what your nervous system wants to do and needs. And so it's not just meant to regulate on its own all the time. Our nervous system, we're meant to connect. We're meant to regulate with other human beings. That's what co-regulation is. Our nervous systems feed off one another. And so I've seen this happen where people are trying to heal completely in isolation. And I empathize with you because when we've experienced trauma or, real high sympathetic, low dorsal vagal place, we're in chronic pain or symptoms, we end up feeling very isolated and in fact are very isolated from the world. But it's thinking, what are ways you can incorporate co-regulation into your day? They don't have to be major moments. Now for myself, I know I'm very grateful that I have, my kids and Anne, and I spend a lot of time co-regulating with them. Just the other day, I know I just talked about yoga, but my son loves to do yoga and he's way better at it than me. Little kids, they're so bendy, right? It's phenomenal. But we were doing that together. We were laughing, we were breathing together. It was this beautiful co-regulating moment. And so it's finding what are ways that you can do that. Now, when we've experienced trauma or chronic pain and symptoms, co-regulation, it can feel really dangerous. It can feel really scary to us. And so sometimes that's where animals come into play. My partner Anne, we rent a horse. She spends a lot of time with Casper the horse, training to use it in her client work. And in my house, I have 3 cats, a dog, a hamster. I have a lot of animals, and this isn't by mistake. I get great comfort and regulation from interacting with animals. And so I'm doing that consistently throughout my day. And it's these little moments of co-regulation and connection. And animals, they can teach us great things. They can be a safer choice for someone who's experienced trauma, especially in relationships, before we start to bridge that gap of connecting with another human being. But don't forget about co-regulation. Self-regulation is important, but you need co-regulation too. Number 6, having a solid morning routine. Now, everything that I've listed thus far on these 6 habits you need to have to heal from chronic pain and symptoms, it really comes down to how are you incorporating all those into your morning routine. There's lots of studies to show that meditating in the morning or doing yoga or qigong in the morning, lots of people experience that it kind of has a longer lasting effect throughout their day. I think there's some truth to this in the sense that my old morning routine, and this was after I healed, I tend to lean towards hypervigilance sometimes. I'd wake up, I'd open my laptop, I'd work and work and work. It was the first thing I did in the day. I'm on a screen, I'm working excessively, I'm getting stressed out, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of my day. So morning routine is really important. It's finding out what works best for your nervous system in the morning, what calms it, what brings you safety in the morning. It could be simple things, and I'm always changing mine up. A couple months ago, what I was doing is none of the standard, practices that I teach on this channel. What I found was this like coffee shop playlist on my YouTube channel, and they were just kind of calm, laid back songs. I would just listen to that in the morning, really focus on the music, and drink my coffee slowly. And that was a beautiful time for me. For a long period, that worked really well. Now I'm always changing things because my nervous system isn't the same every single day either. But it's thinking about this. What is the morning routine that's going to help create safety for you? And so I really want people to experiment with this as much as they can. So these are my 6 daily habits you need to have to heal from chronic pain and symptoms. I hope this list was helpful. I hope you got something from it. And you can think about what habits you need to include in your day consistently. We're coming up on the new year. Not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions. They tend to fail for a lot of us. But I think it's important to think about, like, what are the small habits you can start to include in your daily practice so that you can heal from neuroplastic pain and mind-body concerns. So please put your questions or comments down below. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you all next week. Happy healing.